Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I am your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, this is going to be a fun episode. If you ever wanted to know what is the law of attraction and how do I get it, this is the episode you're going to want to listen to because my brother Andrew, best-selling author, speaker, teacher, he is the Swiss Army knife of paradigm shifting. I can't wait to talk to him. But first, I got to thank our sponsors. As you guys know, for me, I'm always trying to help people save lives, whatever I can do to help change lives. So we came out with a brand new coffee. It's a pre-workout coffee, twice as much caffeine as any other product. It's called Vertical Momentum Coffee. And 22% of the proceeds go to help end veteran homelessness and PTSD. So if you guys love coffee, definitely check it out. And then also our other sponsor is a gentleman named Kurt Balish of Balish Woodworks. He makes homemade woodworks for your home and for your office. So if you're the kind of guy that likes to show off their woodworks to their friends and you don't have this in your house, then you don't have the best. So definitely check out Balish Woodworks. Guys, it's going to be a fun episode. I'm so excited, so humbled, and so grateful because I believe that whatever you obsess, you will eventually possess. And that's what we're going to be talking about today with my brother and best-selling author, Andrew. What's up, brother?
Richard, thank you so much for having me. And I got to tell you, that whole Swiss Army knife of paradigm shifting, I'm going to give you credit, but I might have to use that a few times. That I've never heard that before. But I'm super pumped and kind of unexpected. This is the first time I'm hearing of these sponsors, and to talk about the pre-workout coffee. I mean, it depends how we go with this conversation, but the way I teach law of attraction is actually very much in harmony with that, because as I see that pre-workout coffee, it's leveraging an element of human nature towards more benefit. The fact that people are used to drinking coffee, why not have that in a way that's built into their habits to help them with a workout habit? And I think, in terms of human nature, sometimes it's very powerful when you can recognize aspects of yourself, recognize patterns that you have, recognize your human nature and psychology, and use that to your advantage towards a different end, towards an improved end. So just want to give props to that sponsor, not even expecting that was going to be it, and make that a nice reference point as we begin.
I love it. So tell us a little bit about where you come from, where you grew up, and how you became the man that you are today.
Yeah, well, I'm a born and bred New Yorker. I sometimes wonder what kind of accent comes across.
Yankees.
Yeah, man. Well, I grew up very close to the Bronx, actually. So there's a bit of a Bronx flavor. I went to school on Long Island. So there's a Long Island flavor. I lived in Queens for a while. There's a Queens flavor. A lot of accent going on. But in terms of what brought me to what I'm doing right now, and I'll do my best to make this a short version, I learned about law of attraction back in 2004 as a young, struggling entrepreneur who was just like looking for the secret formula for happiness and success. And to be really candid about it, it was just one modality of many that I was exploring, and it wasn't all that reliable to me. And I'd find out a couple years later, it was really me who was not being reliable, because in 2008, I hit a really hard wall where I lost the company I was working on and my girlfriend of 3 years all in the same week. Like, she broke up over text message within days of me quitting the company to try to recommit to the relationship. It was a mess. And I basically had to take a really long look in the mirror and say, like, what's wrong? Life's not working. Something has to change. And I had this very weird simultaneous moment of indignation and inspiration and epiphany where I'm like, well, as I look back on my life, whenever I did that law of attraction thing and didn't stop, it seemed like things would start to get better. So I had this attitude of, I don't care what happens, when it happens, why it happens, or any of that. I'm going to go all in with this thing. And when I say all in, again, talking about human nature, talking about the coffee, I knew that all day, every day was not sustainable on a human nature standpoint, but I could do 5 or 10 minutes a day of gratitude exercises, visualizations, very simple things, and see what happens. And Richard, it's kind of like a movie, because as soon as I made that decision, things actually switched in a way I never could have expected. Within 2 weeks, I felt a lot better, way better than anyone with a broken heart had any business feeling. Within 3 months, I'm in a brand new, way better, way healthier relationship. Within 4 months, I'm making more money than at any point in my life before then. And within 6 months, everything's different. I'm waking up happy, fulfilled, and the best shape of my life. Like, everything had flipped. And I basically learned the hard way that this law of attraction thing, whether you believe in it or not, by the way, you don't need to believe in it. Whatever this thing is, it works when you work it. And it wasn't until 11 years later where I was just looking to do something new and exciting in my business that I can draw from in my own personal life. And I gave myself permission because like there's like 1,000 law of attraction books out there. I can't just put another one out there just like everyone else. So I made this bold challenge and this bold promise of the last law of attraction book you'll ever need to read, of saying, can I actually give something there where people really, it'll be the last one they genuinely need, and they've got everything they need from that point to kind of actually use it to their own advantage. And that's my shortest version possible, by the way, of saying this. So hopefully that landed and got all the details in for the audience.
There's so much there I would like to just dig into. Like I said, as we were talking earlier, I'm a big mindset guy, and I'm really learning a lot. But one of my mentors, Mr. Ed Milet, he talks about the reticular activating system in the mind, that whatever your mind is constantly being fed is what it's going to look for. And people say, well, I don't believe it's true and all that. And I said, well, how many times we went to the car dealership, we looked at that red Corvette, and then we finally bought it. And then we pulled off the lot, and every other car happened to be a red Corvette. It was just because our mind got so used to looking for the red Corvette that our mind, actually activated itself. And I think that's whether it can either be in the positive or it can be in the negative. So please talk to us about the RAS system and how it can change your whole paradigms. Your whole life can change just by the things you're letting in your ears and the things that you're watching.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm a huge Ed Milet fan myself, so really cool to hear that you're kind of down with a lot of his stuff. Talking about the reticular activation system, and you know, I think people underestimate the power of the human mind and the human brain. And really, there's a recognition that people fail to have that it still is the most powerful supercomputer that is known to man. And it's a complicated, convoluted thing where I couldn't technically even begin to truly express and explain the complexities and the brilliance of the human mind. All I can do is say, well, listen, I've experimented before. I've experimented where I've actually focused on bad and when I focused on good to see what happens in life. And by hook or by crook, your focus really does result that way. And for anyone that has doubts about that, the only thing I would say to them is try it yourself and see. And I often, again, like I know, subject like law of attraction, there's a lot of doubt in that because that's based on the premise that everything is energy and we're like literally energetically attracting things, which for some people are like, well, that's a little out there for me. To which I say, law of attraction and reticular activating system in psychology, this is all kind of like lifting weights to get muscles, which I know is kind of like a very oversimplified way of saying it, but everyone gets it. You lift weights, you get muscles. So I often ask two people, okay, I'll give you two possible explanations as to how this works. Explanation number one is you lift weights and you go to sleep at night and the muscle fairy comes and waves a magic wand and poof, you wake up with more muscles in the morning. Or explanation number two, when you're working out, you're actually putting so much stress on your body that your muscles are tearing in little areas. And then your body the healing mechanism kicks in and those gaps are filled in with more muscle fiber. Now, I realize that's a butchered explanation, but I guarantee you, if you had to choose between the two, anyone listening, they're going to pick the second one, to which I say, unless you're a personal trainer or a physical therapist or someone that needs to understand the actual process, it technically doesn't matter which is the right one. What does matter is you put in X, you get Y. You lift weights, you get muscles. And by that same token, if you focus on negativity or positivity for 30 days without any attachment to an outcome, negativity or positivity is going to come into your world in some way, shape, or form, which means, okay, well, let me be strategic and go the positive direction. And to anyone that doubts that, all I'll say is this. When you focus on gratitude or anything else positive for just 5 minutes a day for 30 straight days, and when things happen, don't give me credit. Don't give my book credit. Don't give the law of attraction credit. Don't give the universe credit. Don't give Richard credit. Don't give the reticular activating system credit. Don't give anything credit, but at least recognize that you did this thing and you got the result and continue with that journey to see if it continues for you.
And I love that. And I just got done reading for a third time my friend's book. His name is James Clear. He has a book out, an amazing book. And he talks about, and just like my friend John talks about, your night ritual and your morning ritual sets the tone for the rest of your day.
Yeah.
And especially if you, like we talked about before we come on camera, I'm a big gratitude guy. I give my thanks before I go to bed. I give my thanks when I wake up in the morning, and everything else is just gravy in between. So talk about that, because you can't be depressed and have gratitude at the same time. They
Yeah,
can't be in the same space.
you can't feel a good and a bad emotion at the same time. It's just human nature. And the interesting thing about gratitude for people that haven't done it is the feedback that I've gotten. People sometimes they feel like they're being fake and inauthentic because life is challenging and there's legitimate things that are upsetting to them and are challenging them in a certain way. Like, well, what do I have to be grateful for? And then it doesn't really become a question of whether you're authentic or not. It becomes a question of, well, is there something to be grateful for? Because if there actually is, then you are going to be authentic and you can follow through on that. And no matter what's going on in life, and me, I don't have a perfect life, and I don't want to pretend anyone listening has a perfect life, but I do know that I am grateful for my heart beating in my chest every single second of every minute of every day of every week of every month of every year of every decade that I've been alive, pumping nutrients, oxygen, blood to other parts of my body that are serving me. I'm grateful for the device I'm speaking on right now because I run my entire business on it. I'm grateful for having awesome people like you to speak to who are so clearly passionate about their audience and about their lives that it inspires me. I'm grateful for like everything in my life, every friend, every supporter, every family member, every mentor. These are things that, regardless of whether I have a bad day, and I had something this morning that annoyed me, but it doesn't change the fact that I have things to be grateful for. And strategically speaking, I'm a strategy guy. Strategically speaking, I want to make sure that I recognize those things because I know from past experience that when I don't, life gets worse. And when I do, life gets better. So why wouldn't I make sure to think of things that are genuinely worthy of my gratitude that I can focus on every single day?
And I love what you're talking about. Now, one of my friends I had on, his name was Mr. Rich Davini, and he's a retired Navy SEAL commander, came out with a book called The Attributes, and he talks about the 3-minute rule. He says when you're in combat, if bad things happen to you, okay, you have 3 minutes to decompartmentalize. If you lose somebody, you cry over it for 3 minutes, and then you got to get your ass back packing again. Or if you have a success, if you succeed in something, all right, you got 3 minutes, and then you got to move on. And that's really helped me in my life because I remember there'd be times where I would have such a high, and then somebody would cancel on my show, and I'd be like really low. Or I'd have somebody like I had General Petraeus on. I had a great interview, and he's like, by the way, you can't put the show out because I'm asking you not to put the show out. And I'm like, from the greatest to here. But he said, but if you don't put it out, you'll have a friend for life. So I was like, okay. So a lot of times I think we have to figure out, all right, you got, whether you're having a bad minute or a good minute, take 3 minutes and then suck it up and drive on. That's why I love David Goggins. He always talks about, embrace the suck. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
And it's interesting. You mentioned David Goggins before. You mentioned Ed Milet. Now we're talking with me, and you're on here. Everyone has their own way of communicating and expressing their strategy set for coping with life and thriving within life. And I want to invite people to listen to each person and pull whatever value resonates the most with you. Because David Goggins, the way he might say something might be perfect, or there might be a slight little subtle distinction where if you shift one thing that he advises and it works for you, well, beautiful. As long as like whatever it is, you do have that, that affirmation every single day of staying on top of things and moving forward and focusing on the constructive rather than destructive. Because again, like we only have one life, and you know, look at, I told you before how everything kind of crashed in 2008 and I had to take a close look in the mirror. I basically was looking back on the fact that I wasted my entire 20s. Like my whole 20s were down the drain. Now, I could have just dwelled on that, and I did for a couple of days. Or after that, I can say, all right, well, maybe I can make my 30s awesome. Maybe I can there's still so much more to do with my life. And like wherever people are at, I'm not going to pretend anything's perfect, but there's so much opportunity, more so than we ever realize, because all we see in front of us is what's in front of us. We don't see the things that are waiting way down in the path that can be there, that are waiting for us, so long as we focus more constructively on our way towards those things.
Now, obviously, like you said, I'm a big reader. I think I've read over up almost to 6,000 books now. even though I'm a ninth grade dropout. I'm just addicted to knowledge. But now, for somebody to say, this might be the last law of attraction book you'll ever need, I think that's amazing. But also, I was talking to one of Tony Robbins's people that work with him, and he says, you know what? He says 97% of the people come to see him time and time again and never act upon it. So there's 3% of the people that will, consume his content and actually use it. And so talk to us about, it's great to have a book just sitting on your counter, but if you don't put it into action, it's worthless. You just wasted a couple hours reading.
Yeah, so this is actually why I call my book the last law of attraction book you'll ever need to read. Not ever, I mean, maybe ever read, that's up to you, but ever need, because the thing that I put in this book, and no one has to pay for this thing, I'm about to give you the thing, but the thing that I put in the book is the reason why people learn about the law of attraction or anything else, and they get really excited, and they actually start to use it, and they actually start to get results, and they still stop. Because if you could be aware of that reason, and aware of the way around that reason, well, then you can actually move forward on this. So again, people don't have to buy this to learn this. I'm going to tell you guys right now. The reason that people get excited about something, the reason they go to a Tony Robbins event and they still don't do it, is what I define as the ego. And when I say that, because I'm not, a therapist, I'm not I don't have any degrees like that. So when I say ego, it's not necessarily the definition that people might be used to, but the way I explain is we've got three minds. We've got the conscious mind, we've got the subconscious mind, and we've got the ego right in the middle. And I say in the middle because it's way stronger than the conscious mind, but fortunately for everybody, nothing compared to the subconscious. And the ego, as I define it, has one job in this world, and that's to keep you alive. And right now, where you are in your life, with any money problems, any relationship problems, even any health problems, your ego is looking around and it knows you are alive. And the last thing it wants to do is risk or change the status quo, because maybe you want to be rich and famous, but for all your ego knows is when you become famous, you're going to get a stalker, and that's a threat to your survival. For all your ego knows is when you get rich, you're going to have distant family coming out of nowhere to try to sue you for your home. So your ego actually loves you, but it is a misguided attempt to protect you. It keeps you stuck in place through fears, uncertainties, doubts, or anything else that it needs. So with this recognition that the ego does this, and again, it's only trying to help us, but it does this, the recognition that, you work out for a week straight, and then it whispers in your ear, you've worked out a week straight, you're looking good, maybe you could take a week off, maybe you could eat that piece of chocolate cake, maybe whatever. It's always going to have something to tell you. Well, then we have to bypass the ego and access the subconscious mind. And this is where visualization methods, gratitude methods, it only take a few minutes a day. This is where these come in, because if you can do that and jump over the ego and bypass the subconscious mind, that will be this huge powerhouse that just carries you. You will, like, for example, someone that wants a job promotion, when they put in their subconscious mind that they want that job promotion, they're actually going to get it, without even noticing consciously, they're going to have a different cadence to their voice. They're going to have a better, stronger eye contact, better body language with people. They're going to have a more resilient mindset. They're going to have more confidence. People are going to notice them more, and they're going to want to promote them. So the whole thing is, all right, we've got to access the subconscious mind. We've got these methods. Well, then, is there anything missing? Only one thing missing. You got to make sure, as disciplined as you are, make sure you find a method, a gratitude method, a visualization method that you enjoy. Because when you enjoy it, your ego is going to have so much more difficulty talking you out of it. One little thing you enjoy for only 5 minutes a day, it's going to have so much more. And once you can do that thing every single day and start programming your subconscious mind, energetically reaching the universe, if you believe that sort of thing, that's where things really happen. And then once you get to this new point in your life and your ego looks around and it sees you're still alive, it will then fight tooth and nail to protect that new level of your life as well.
And I totally believe that. Like, I'm like everybody else. I mean, I'm 53. I hate cardio. I hate walking. But now, like, as I said, I love to read. So I got Audible, and now I'm listening to a book, Story Brand. I love the book called Story Brand. But now I get the excitement out of reading and listening and learning. So now I work out so I can do my reading and learning. So it's kind of like I'm doing something I hate because I'm able to do something I love, but it kind of comes together where you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, well, it sounds to me like you've strategically built in a reward system because there is something that you don't enjoy so much. So in order to help yourself do it, you're putting a carrot on the end of the stick very intelligently. That's what I'm hearing as you describe that.
Yep, and a lot of people don't realize, like they don't stack their wins like they talks about on Atomic Habits. A lot of people will stack our losses. A lot of people will talk about their losses, but they don't really talk about their wins and stack the little wins. Like, okay, you know what? I wasn't perfect on my diet today, but I wasn't as bad as I was yesterday. So maybe the next meal I'm gonna do better. And then you just stack, sometimes minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day. Sometimes you got to stack your wins in order to start succeeding. Correct?
Yeah, it's a very tight rope that we end up walking, and I'll only give my perspective, and I invite people to use it if it works for them. My attitude is that I can always do better, but by that same token, I refuse to judge myself harshly if I drop the ball a little bit. I mean, I can't. I wish I can not judge myself if I really drop the ball. That's something I'm still working through. But just in terms of like a little thing where I worked out for 45 minutes instead of an hour. Well, it's like, all right, well, I'm going to give myself the credit for the 45 minutes because if I focus on that, I'll be more pumped about doing it tomorrow. And that's the whole point. So I'm always acknowledging like, Andrew, you can do better, but that's okay. You're supposed to always need to do better. You're supposed to have something else to rise for. But by maintaining that attitude, if you look back over time, over the last week, the last month, the last year, I can see all the improvement. I can see all the progress. And that excites me even more so when I keep pushing into the future.
So, what was the impetus of the book? Because when my book just hit #1 for the second time,
Congrats.
In substance abuse. But for me, it was very cathartic, but it also ripped open a lot of old hurts and healing. I had to do a lot of healing when I wrote my book, but now it's saving lives. So, what was it like writing your book, and what was the impetus, and why did you write a book?
It's very interesting because again, like I had this moment in 2008 where I kind of learned for the first time, like, okay, the real implications of this thing. And it took me till 2019 to actually write about it. And to be honest, I was living my life, I was doing things, I was learning, I was still experimenting. And I always had in the back of my mind, like I wanted to write a book like this, but I don't know what it was, honestly, Richard, where I finally gave myself permission. But I hit this point where it's like, it's 2019. I had this sense that I needed something new and I wanted to dive into a project where, to be candid, I wouldn't be bored or impatient if my customers emailed me. You know what I mean? It's like, what is it about in my life that's still exciting, so exciting that if someone emails me a question, I'll reply and I'll be excited about it and I won't be drained by it. And like this kept popping in my mind. And that's where again, like I say, like, listen, I can't just write anything. It's got to be different. It's got to be bold. It's got to be a game changer. And I came up with the title and the cover very early on and every day as I was writing it. And I took about 30 days to put down all these notes and then like 9.5 weeks molding them into a book. Every single day before I wrote a chapter, I would pull up the cover on the screen and I would look at it and I'd kind of meditate on it and remind myself of why I'm doing this because I didn't want to, be half-hearted in any of what I was writing. I wanted to be a genuine experience, a genuine progression of ideas from page 1 to page 208, where it really did deliver on that promise. And it was cathartic in a different way, but it was more like I was kind of like discovering how much I had inside me to articulate it more and more every day as I just kept challenging myself.
So, what was it like? Because a lot of us have written a book, put it out, and it does crickets, and you don't hear anything, and you're just like, "My God, I think I just wasted a couple trees for no reason."
Yeah.
So, what was it like when it started to take off, and then it finally became a bestseller? What was
It
that?
was well, here's the thing, and like, I've synonymously written other books, so this isn't like Andrew did like huge success on his first book. Like I know what it's like for everyone listening out there. I know what it's like to launch a book to crickets. This one, here's the thing about it. My book title is either very intelligent or very stupid. In terms of a decision to make, it's very intelligent if I can keep my promise because the title guarantees people at least give it a try. But if it's bad, then they'll review it poorly. So I had to make sure to back it up, which fortunately reviews have indicated so. So I launched the book and I saw sales come in like within a couple minutes, like right away. I need like, they caught their attention and it was the number one new release. And it was only I looked in on like 3 weeks later and I saw it was a number one bestseller. But to be honest, I don't know if it happened 2 weeks later or a week and a half later. I don't actually know the day it first became a number one bestseller because I wasn't looking closely. I was just more like looking at the sales numbers and getting emails from people. But to answer your question, it was very surreal. It was very surreal because I felt like it was me and not me at the same time. And I kind of had to I had to grow into even that person that was getting that success because it was the first time that I was experiencing that before
Okay.
from an author standpoint.
Yeah. Now I got a question because everybody knows they have that one review, they have that one person that said something. For me, it was a guy was watching one of my videos, and he had the gun in his hand, and it was chambered, and he was about to pull the trigger, and I said something that made him put the weapon down and call 911 and get help, and it changed his whole life. So what is that one person that reached out to you and said, bro, this changed my life? What was that one review or that one?
I'm fortunate enough, there's there's so many like I've had people email me that they use this as an inspiration to get out of abusive relationships. But the one that I like to highlight, just because I interviewed the person on my YouTube channel. The thing that makes it my favorite is because it's something that other readers can model. Because me as the author, it's very easy for me like, hey, I did this thing and I'm successful, and everyone's like, well, that's nice, that's you, and you're writing the book, and maybe you're trying to sell copies. I love it when a reader gets a certain success that's tangible that other people could look to. And someone that I have a 90-day program where basically I just send people emails to videos where I guide them through these methods every day, because if you do the method every day, things happen. And she emails me on day 87 out of 90, and she's like, Andrew, just want to let you know, when I was starting your program, I thought I was going to lose my job. Like nothing was working. She was in sales, like nothing's working. I thought it was the end. And now on day 87, I'm making a minimum of $100,000 in revenue for my company every single month. That's like the floor. And that's all. Like for me, I think my content was the catalyst, but that was all her. But I was so excited because I got to interview her and ask her how she used the methods and what her her routine was for it. And I put that out there so anybody can go on and they can view it and they can hear her story versus mine as someone, as a reader that actually took it. That's the most exciting to me.
I love it. So what are your top three piece of advice for somebody that wants to change their or have a paradigm shift? What are your top three actionable steps that they can actually take today to start changing today? Because for me, I have a t-shirt I always wear. It's called Today I Decide, which means it's the three most important words in the English language. Today I decide. Because once you make a decision, then all you have to do is act upon it. So what is your top three things that somebody can use today?
All right. So two popped in mind right away, and we'll see if that third one comes. So the first one is just, most people from a law of attraction standpoint, it doesn't work out, and then they think it's a scam and they lose hope and they get down on themselves. And the reason that this happens for most people is they do these methods, these manifesting methods, gratitude, visualization, whatever it might be. They do it for the sake of getting the result, to which people are like, well, duh, Andrew, why else would I do it other than getting the result? Which I say, okay, there's a subtle little distinction in there, and there's a trap that people don't see. When you do these methods to get your result, you're basically focusing on the fact that you don't have your thing. So whether you're programming the universe energetically or your mind psychologically or whatever, a combination, when you do the method to get the result, you are reaffirming that you don't have the result, which is reaffirming that reality for you. So the number one thing that you can do instead is do the method for the sake of enjoying the method. Because this is about is feeling good emotionally while thinking about what you have or what you want or both. And when you feel good, when you just enjoy the method for the sake of enjoying the method, then you're putting out the energetic vibration or the psychological signal or whatever it is you might believe. It's going to get you a result either way. Then you're giving out the vibe of having what you want, and then those things will come. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I'll tell you what I do every single day. Every single day, I pull out my phone and I hit the recorder app and I record a message, whether it's 90 seconds or 5 minutes of all the things I'm grateful for in my life. And I send that to a friend of mine across the country who does the same thing for me. If you don't have a buddy system of someone that you can do this back and forth with, that's okay. You can just do it for yourself. Pull out the recorder app and start talking about all the things you're grateful for. And by the way, 30 seconds in, you can be like, meh, whatever. 90 seconds, you feel a little better. 120 seconds, like it'll take a little bit of a while to get used to it, but it's so easy to just pull out the phone and start talking. If you don't like it, you could write things down instead. That's the second thing. The third thing is to remind yourself that a lot of improvements, like we take action, real action, and we're going to need to take real inspired action. But a lot of improvements happen on their own as we're not looking. So the third thing I want to do is remind you that your life actually might be improving a lot right now in ways that you don't see, but you will see it way more easily and way more clearly and way more obviously and way more enjoyably if you start focusing on the positive. Then you'll leave space for this thing to come into your awareness.
I love that because I kind of think, there's an old Italian saying said that the pot's not going to boil any quicker if you're staring at it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I totally agree with that. So now, how do we find you? How do we find your book? And how do we find your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so for me, it's very easy. Well, in the US, if you go to lastlawofattractionbook.com, that'll auto forward to the listing on Amazon. And if you're anywhere else, Amazon or Audible, just look for the Last Law of Attraction book you'll ever need to read. There's that. If you want to pay a few bucks for the book, Kindle version is very affordable. But if you don't want to pull out your wallet, that's why I have the YouTube channel and why I hope, to create free content for people. And that's simply youtube.com/Andrew Kap. That last name spelled K-A-P. Those are the two easy. There's ways of reaching out to me after that. There's a contact section YouTube channel, but for me, it's more about just giving value first. And there's no reason to reach out to me if you're not actually getting value first. So I point people to either of those links and invite them just to follow their gut. And whether it's my book or anyone else's, my YouTube channel or anyone else's, I really hope that you'll just give that concept of gratitude a try just to see what happens, because there's everything to gain and nothing to lose.
I love it. So I got my one last question is, a couple weeks ago, I had one of my favorite guys. He's on a co-host of Tournament of Champions on the Food Network, Simon Majumdar. And we were talking on the show, and he was saying that in the last 2 years, we've lost over 100,000 restaurants in the United States. So we have a lot of people that are unemployed still, driving Uber, DoorDash, just to put food on the table. So if we ask the average American to do something in 7 days, they're pretty much not going to get to it. But if somebody is listening to this now and we ask them to take an actionable step in the next 24 hours, they're more likely to do it. Mm-hmm. So if somebody's listening to what we're talking about and be like, you know what, I really like to try it, but I don't know what the one step that I can take in the next 24 hours to get the ball rolling. So where would you suggest that what would you suggest that one person do in the next 24 hours to start to get some clarity in their life?
Yeah. So, I say this with the understanding that I am never going to pretend that, like, again, whatever you're going through, I'm not going to pretend like that is not valid. So please understand that this is in the context of that. And I appreciate anyone that might be having difficulty. I've had financial difficulties in my life as well, so I understand. Here's what I'd say: whether it's pulling out your phone and hitting the recorder app or pulling out a pad and paper, even if you can't think of things that you're grateful for in your life right now, even though there are plenty regardless, then just go back in your past and write things down, whether it's your best friend, whether it's a mentor. Make a list of things in your life that you are experiencing or have experienced that are good and that you're glad you got to have in your life and that you are grateful for. And it might be a really dramatic shift that you experience, or it might be more subtle, but it's so easy to do. And that's why in 24 hours, in 5 minutes, in the next 5 minutes, you can do it. Once it's, you're done hearing this recording, hearing your show, give it a shot. You have nothing to lose. And it's so easy to do. And that's why I recommend it, because it's easy.
I love it, brother. And guys, what I would be grateful for you if you just smash that subscribe button to make sure that you keep on getting messages like this. Brother, I just want to say thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you and everything you got going on. And I love building generational relationships. and I'm glad that this one has just started. I want to thank our sponsors. Like I said, guys, if you love pre-workouts, if you love coffee, check out the Vertical Momentum Coffee. It's the first pre-workout coffee, dark roast that you'll ever want and you'll ever need. Check it out. It's also available for delivery right to your home every month. So if you like coffee, check it out. And guys, Mother's Day is coming up, by the way. Kurt actually can make your wife or your daughter a cutting board with her name on it or the family crest. So maybe do something like that for your significant other. Check out ballishwoodworks.com. Andrew, brother, I just want to say I'm so grateful, and I could go on for hours just hanging out and talking to you.
Richard, the feeling is more than mutual, and I mean, like, I had to say, I mean this. I'm grateful and really appreciative of the care that you have for the show, and I could just tell by your questions that you really care about your audience, and that right there is the first thing for anyone to list if they can't think of anything. Thank you so much for having me on and letting me into, really, like, this is a sacred space for you, and I do not take lightly the fact that you had me on in this space and you trusted me as you gave your message to your audience. So thank you so much for having me, and thanks to your audience, every person listening. I really appreciate you, and I'm so glad that we could all share this moment in time together.
I love it. And guys, remember, vertical momentum. The only way to go is what? Up. I'll catch you guys next week.